Jeff Bezos is stepping down as CEO, and today he released his last letter to the stakeholders of Amazon. Now, I'm going to give you some summary on what that letter says, then I'm going to actually read it for you. As an Amazon seller, it's always good to pay attention to this kind of stuff because you want to see the signal, the vision, and what's coming out of the current leader at Amazon. What's going to change, what's going to happen, that kind of stuff. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, and I am going to go ahead and dive right in. So Jeff Bezos' annual stake shareholder letter, if you will, is pretty much a must-read for anybody active or even a passive interest in Amazon because they're half the economy, quite frankly, right? So sometimes these kinds of letters can be treasure troves of new data points. They could also have some high-level insight, that kind of stuff. I think the biggest takeaway is that Jeff is still going to be involved at Amazon, right? So he's stepping down as CEO, but he's still going to be heavily involved in the company. His upcoming role is executive chair. Quote, I'm going to focus on new initiatives. I'm an inventor. It's what I enjoy the most and what I do best. It's where I create the most value. So probably going to come up with some new products is what he's saying. The incoming CEO is Andy Jassy, and quite frankly, Jeff Bezos says, Andy is brilliant, has the highest of high standards. Guarantee you that Andy won't let the universe make us typical. Interesting way to put it. Prime data point, we have more than 200 million Prime members, pretty consistent with the survey results. 3P marketplaces, Amazon has more than 1.9 marketplace sellers, which make up close to 60% of Amazon's bottom line, Amazon retail sales. Alexa device penetration, more than 100 million smart home devices connect to Alexa. I don't think that's 100 million homes because I think I have 3 or 4 devices in my own house. AWS cost benefits, direct cost improvements from operating in the cloud versus premises vary, but a reasonable estimate is 30%. So pretty conservative there. What union? 94% of Amazon Fulfillment Center employees surveyed would recommend Amazon to a friend as a place to work. That's a pretty freaking high number. Although that stat could be coming directly from their internal polling, and who knows what that means. On the vision side of things, in addition to being the Earth's most customer-centric company, it's a pretty big claim, Amazon will strive to be the Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. Jeff, how about you pay some taxes for starters, right? That would be great. Could you be the biggest taxpayer in the United States? That would be fantastic. Pay for some infrastructure. Amazon is on schedule to hit its renewable energy by 2025 targets. That's not something that I particularly am interested in. I would rather he pay taxes. And then he offers some word of wisdom. So if you want to be successful in business, in life actually, you have to create more than you consume. Differentiation is survival, and the universe wants you to be typical. Democracies are not normal. Tyranny is the historical norm. If we stop doing all the continuous hard work that is needed to maintain our distinctiveness, in that regard, we would quickly come into equilibrium with tyranny. The world will always try to make Amazon more typical, the world rather, to bring us into equilibrium with our environment. It will take continuous effort, but we can and must be better than that. All right, so we're going to go over to his actual letter now. And in here, it reads, in Amazon's 1997 letter to shareholders, our first, I talked about our hope to create an enduring franchise, one that would reinvent what it means to serve customers by unlocking the internet's power. I noted that Amazon had grown from having 158 employees to 614, and that we had surpassed 1.5 million customer accounts. We had just gone public at a split-adjusted stock price of $1.50 per share. I wrote that it was day one. We've come a long way since then, and we are working harder than ever to serve and delight customers. Last year, we hired 500,000 employees, now directly employ 1.3 million people around the world. That's a lot of employee hires. We have more than 200 million Prime members worldwide. More than 1.9 million small and medium-sized businesses sell in our store. They make up close to 60% of our retail sales. Customers have connected more than 100 million smart home devices to Alexa. Amazon Web Services serves millions of customers and ended 2020 with a $50 billion annualized run rate. In 1997, we hadn't invented Prime, Marketplace, Alexa, or AWS. They weren't even ideas then. None were preordained. We took great risk with each one, put sweat and ingenuity into each one. Along the way, we've created $1.6 trillion in wealth for share owners. Who are they? Your chair is one. And my Amazon shares have made me wealthy, but more than 7/8 of the shares representing $1.4 trillion of wealth creation are owned by others. Who are they? They are pension funds, universities, 401ks. There's Mary and Larry, who sent me this note out in the blue just as I was sitting down to write the shareholder letter. I am approached with similar stories all the time. I know people who have used Amazon money for college, for emergencies, for houses, for vacations, to start their own business, for charity, and the list goes on. I'm proud of the wealth we've created for share owners. It's significant, and it improves their lives. But I also know something else. It's not the largest part of the value we've created. Create more than you consume. If you want to be successful in business, in life actually, you have to create more than you consume. Your goals should be to create value for everyone you interact with. Any business that doesn't create value for those it touches, even if it appears successful on the surface, it's not long for this world. It's on the way out. Facebook. Remember that stock prices are not about the past. They are a prediction of future cash flows discounted back to the present. The stock market anticipates. I'm going to switch gears for a moment and talk about the past. How much value did we create for share owners in 2020? It's a relatively easy question to answer because accounting systems are set up to answer it. Our net income in 2020 was $21.3 billion. Instead of being a publicly traded company with thousands of owners, Amazon were a sole proprietorship with a single owner. That's how much the owner would have earned in 2020. How about employees? This is also a reasonably easy value creation question to answer because we can look at compensation expense. What is an expense for a company and income for employees? In 2020, employees earned $80 billion plus another $11 billion to include benefits or other payroll taxes for a total of $91 billion. How about third-party sellers? We have an internal team, the Selling Partner Services team, that works to answer that question. They estimate that in 2020, third-party seller profits from selling on Amazon were between $25 and $39 billion. And to be conservative here, we'll go with the $25 billion. For customers, we have to break it down into consumer customers and AWS customers. We'll do consumers first. We offer low prices, fast selection, fast delivery, but imagine we ignore all of that for the purpose of this estimate. Value only one thing. We save customers time. Customers complete 28% of purchases on Amazon in 3 minutes or less. Half of all purchases are finished in 15 minutes. Compare that to the typical shopping trip to a physical store: driving, parking, searching, store aisles, waiting in the checkout line, finding your car, and driving home. Research suggests the typical physical store trip takes about an hour. If you assume that typical Amazon purchase takes 15 minutes, then it saves you a couple trips to a physical store a week. That's more than 75 hours a year saved. That's important. We're all busy in the early 21st century. So we get that dollar figure. Let's value that the time savings at $10 an hour, which is conservative. 75 hours multiplied by $10 an hour, subtracting the cost of Prime, gives you the value creation for each Prime member at about $630. We have 200 million Prime members for a total in 2020 of $126 billion of value creation. I gotta be honest. Most of these fake numbers that we see above coming up to this point were, kind of high in the pie sky. I actually think this number is conservative. I would say I would value Amazon at saving me more than $600 a year, 100%. AWS is challenging to estimate because each customer's workload is so different, but we'll do it anyway, acknowledging upfront that the error bars are high. Direct cost improvements for operating in the cloud versus on-premise vary, but a reasonable estimate is 30%. Across AWS's entire 2020 revenue of $45 billion, that's about 30%, would simply imply customer value creation of $19 billion. What would have cost them $64 billion of their own costs $45 billion from AWS. The difficult part of this estimate exercise is the direct cost reduction in the smallest portion of the customer benefit of moving to the cloud. The bigger benefit is the increased speed of software development, something that can be significantly improve the customer's competitiveness and top line. We have no reasonable way of estimating that portion of customer value except to say that it's almost certainly larger than the direct cost savings. To be conservative here and remembering we're only trying to ballpark estimates, I'll say that's the same. Call AWS customer value creation of $38 billion in 2020. Adding AWS and consumers together gives us a total customer valuation creation in 2020 of $164 billion. Summarizing, shareholders, $21 billion. Employees, $91 billion. 3P sellers, $25 billion. Customers, $164 billion with a total of $301 billion. I would like to know how much in billions Jeff Bezos has paid in taxes. If each group had an income statement representing their interactions with Amazon, the number above would be the bottom lines for those income statements. These numbers are part of the reason why people work for us, why sellers sell through us, and why customers buy from us. We create value for them, and this value creation is not zero-sum game. It's not just moving money from one pocket to another. Draw the big box around all of society, and you'll find that invention is the root of all real value creation. I have to admit, Jeff's tone of his letter is pretty spot on. True capitalist letter here. I got to say, it's a pretty good letter so far. Obviously, I'm chiming in and poking at a couple of things, but by and large, pretty solid letter. And value created is the best thought of a metric for innovation. Of course, our relationship with these I can't say that word, and the value we create isn't exclusive dollars and cents. Money doesn't tell the whole story. Our relationship with shareholders, for example, is relatively simple. They invest and hold shares for a duration of their choosing. We provide direction to share owners infrequently on matters such as annual meetings and the right process to vote to their shares. And even when they can ignore those directions and just skip voting. Our relationship with employees is very different. Example, we have processes they follow and standards they meet. We require training and various certifications. Employees have to show up at appointed times. Our interactions with employees are many and they're fine-grained. It's not just about the pay and the benefits. It's all about the other detailed aspects of the relationship too. Side note here, guys. Everybody who I've ever met who's ever worked at Amazon will all typically say they liked working there, but they were overworked. And the culture was like 60 to 70-hour work weeks. A lot of people I knew drink on the job, like alcohol literally on the desk kind of drinking. And so the culture that they've built is very cutthroat. So it's interesting that Jeff is trying to paint a better culture picture. Does your chair take comfort in the outcome of the recent union vote in Bessemer? No, he doesn't. I think we need to do a better job for our employees. While the voting results were lopsided and our direct relationship with employees is strong, it's clear to me that we need a better vision for how we create value for employees, a vision for their success. If you read some of the news reports, you might think we have no care for employees. In those reports, our employees are sometimes accused of being desperate souls and treated as robots. That's not accurate. They're sophisticated and thoughtful people who have options for where to work. When we survey fulfillment center employees, 94% say they would recommend Amazon to a friend as a place to work. Obviously, it's really hard to trust that number, but there's nothing we can say otherwise. Employees are able to take informal breaks throughout their shifts to stretch, get water, use the restroom, or talk to a manager, all without impacting their performance. These informal work breaks are in addition to the 30-minute lunch and 30-minute break built into the normal schedule. We don't set unreasonable performance goals. We set achievable performance goals that take into account tenure and actual employee performance data. Performance is evaluated over a long period of time. As we know, a variety of things can impact performance in any given week, day, or hour. If employees are on track to miss a performance target over a period of time, their manager talks with them and provides coaching. Side note here, I'm pretty sure Amazon culls its bottom 10% of its workforce literally every year, which is pretty cutthroat. Coaching is also extended to employees who are excelling and in line for increased responsibilities. In fact, 82% of coaching is positive, provided to employees who are meeting or exceeding expectations. We terminate the employment of less than 2.6% of employees due to their inability to perform their jobs, and that number was even lower in 2020 because of operational impacts of COVID-19. Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. pretty bold statements here. The fact is, the large team of thousands of people who lead operations at Amazon have always cared deeply for our hourly employees. We're proud of the work environment we've created. We're also proud of the fact that Amazon is a company that does more than just create jobs for computer scientists and people with advanced degrees. We create jobs for people who never got that advantage. I will agree with that statement. A lot of my clientele at my Amazon guy, blue-collar workers who have a cool idea, they just need help getting it sold, and Amazon fills that gap. Despite that, what we've accomplished, it's clear to me that we need a better vision for our employees' success. We've always wanted to be Earth's most customer-centric company. We won't change that. It's what got us here, but I'm committing us to an addition. We are going to be Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. In my upcoming role as executive chair, I'm going to focus on new initiatives. I'm an inventor. It's what I enjoy the most, what I do best. It's where I create the most value. I'm excited to work alongside the large team of passionate people we have in ops and help invent in this arena of Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work. On the details, we at Amazon are always flexible, but on matters of vision, we are stubborn and relentless. We've never failed when we set our minds to do something. We're not going to start to fail at it either. We dive deep into safety issues. For example, about 40% of work-related injuries at Amazon are related to musculoskeletal disorders, MSDs, things like sprains or sprains that can cause repetitive motions. MSDs are common in the type of work that we do and are more likely to occur during an employee's first 6 months. We need to invent solutions to reduce MSDs for new employees, many of whom might be working in a physical role for the first time. One such program is Working Well, which we launched to 859,000 employees at 350 sites across North America and Europe in 2020. When we coach small groups of employees on body mechanics, proactive wellness, and safety, in addition to reducing workplace injuries, these concepts have a positive impact on regular day-to-day activities outside work. We're developing new automated staffing schedules that use sophisticated algorithms to rotate employees among jobs that use different muscle tendon groups to decrease repetitive motion and help protect employees from MSD risks. This new technology is central to a job rotation program that we're rolling out throughout 2021. Our increased attention to early MSD prevention is already achieving results from 2019 to 2020. Overall, MSD decreased by 32%, and MSDs resulting in time away from work decreased by more than half. We employ 6,200 safety professionals at Amazon. They use science of safety to solve complex problems and establish new industry best practices. In 2021, we'll invest more than $300 million into safety projects, including an initial $66 million, to create technology that will help prevent collisions of forklifts and types of industrial vehicles. When we lead, others follow. 2.5 years ago, when we set a $15 minimum wage for our hourly employees, we did so because we wanted to lead on wages, not just run with the pack, and because we believed it was the right thing to do. Recent paper by economists at University of California, Berkeley, and Brandeis University analyzed the impact of our decision to raise our minimum starting pay to $15 per hour. Their assessment reflects that what we've heard from our employees, their families, and communities they live in. Our increase in starting wage boosted local economies across the country by benefiting not only our own employees, but other workers in the same community. The study showed that our pay increase resulted in a 4.7% increase in the average hourly wage among other employers in the same labor market. We're not done leading. If we want to be Earth's best employer, we shouldn't settle for 94% of employees saying they would recommend Amazon to a friend as a place to work. We have to aim for 100%. We'll do that by continuing to lead on wages, on benefits, on upskilling opportunities, and in other ways that we will figure out over time. If any shareholders are concerned that Earth's best employer and Earth's safest place to work might dilute our focus on Earth's most customer-centric company, let me set your mind at ease. Think of it this way. If we can operate two businesses as different as consumer e-commerce and AWS and do both at the highest level, we can certainly do the same with these two vision statements. In fact, I'm confident they will reinforce each other. I'm going to skip the climate pledge because I literally don't care about their climate pledge, and I'm going to go to the next section. Differentiation is survival, and the universe wants you to be typical. This is my last annual shareholder letter as CEO of Amazon, and I have one last thing of utmost importance I feel compelled to teach. I hope all Amazonians take it to heart. Here is a passage from Richard Dawkins' extraordinary book, The Blind Watchmaker. It's about basic fact of biology. Staving off death is a thing that you have to work at. Left to itself, and that's what it is when it dies, the body tends to revert to a state of equilibrium with its environment. If you measure some quantity, such as temperature, the acidity, the water content, or the electrical potential in a living body, you will typically find that is markedly different from the corresponding measure in the surroundings. Our bodies, for instance, are usually hotter than our surroundings, and in cold climates, they have to work hard to maintain the differential. When we die, the work stops, the temperature differential starts to disappear, and we end up at the same temperature as our surroundings. Not all animals work so hard to avoid coming into equilibrium with their surrounding temperatures, but all animals do some comparable work. For instance, in a dry country, animals and plants work to maintain the fluid content of their cells, work against a natural tendency for water to flow from them into the dry outside world if they fail to die. If they fail, they die. More generally, if living things didn't work actively to prevent it, they would eventually merge into their surroundings and cease to exist as autonomous beings. This is what happens when they die. While the passage is not intended as a metaphor, it's nevertheless a fantastic one and very relevant to Amazon. I would argue that it's relevant to all companies and all institutions and to each of our individual lives too. In what way does the world pull at you in an attempt to make you normal? How much work does it take to maintain your distinctiveness, to keep alive the thing or things that make you special? I know a happily married couple who have a running joke in the relationship. Not infrequently, the husband looks at the wife with fox distress and says to her, "Can't you just be normal?" They both smile and laugh, and of course the deep truth is that her distinctiveness is something that he loves about her. But at the same time, it's also true that things would often be easier, take less energy if they were a little more normal. This phenomenon happens at all scale levels. Democracies are not normal. Tyranny is the historical norm. If we stop doing all of the continuous hard work that is needed to maintain our distinctiveness in that regard, we would quickly come into equilibrium with tyranny. We all know that distinctiveness, originality, is valuable. We are all taught to be yourself. What I'm really asking you to do is to embrace and be realistic about how much energy it takes to maintain that distinctiveness. The world wants you to be typical. In 1,000 ways, it pulls at you. Don't let it happen. You have to pay a price for your distinctiveness, and it's worth it. The fairy tale version of be yourself is that the pains stop as soon as you allow your distinctiveness to shine. That version is misleading. Being yourself is worth it, but don't expect it to be easy or free. You'll have to put energy into it continuously. The world will always try to make Amazon more typical, to bring us into equilibrium with our environment. It will take continuous effort, but we can and must be better than that. As always, I attach our 1997 shareholder letter. It concluded with this: "We at Amazon.com are grateful to our customers for their business and trust, to each and other for our hard work, to our shareholders for their support and encouragement." That hasn't changed a bit. I want to especially thank Andy Jassy for agreeing to take on the CEO role. It's a hard job with a lot of responsibility. Andy is brilliant and has the highest standards. I guarantee you that Andy won't let the universe make us typical. He will muster the energy needed to keep us alive, to make what makes us special. That won't be easy, but it is critical. I also predict it will be satisfying and oftentimes fun. Thank you, Andy. To all of you, be kind, be original, create more than you consume, and never, never, never let the universe smooth you into the surroundings. It remains day one. Sincerely, Jeffrey P. Bezos, founder and chief executive officer of Amazon.com. So that is the letter. You can find a full copy of this at the Wall Street Journal. And I appreciate you guys listening in. Let me know what you think of the letter in the comments section. And as always, any Amazon questions, I'm here to answer them. Tune in Friday at noon, weekly, Eastern Standard Time, to ask any Amazon question of me, your host, Stephen Pope, and the founder of My Amazon Guy.